Jake Walker sat alone in the cold metal room, eating soggy fries from a paper box. The military base was always quiet at night. Too quiet, he didn't mind though. After serving 2 years in combat zones, quiet felt like a gift. This place was different from the front lines. Here, he was just a low-level security guard. He watched cameras, opened locked doors, and sometimes walked the hallways with a flashlight. Most nights were boring, and that was fine with him. But tonight, something was different. He noticed it the moment he passed the East Wing. There was a new cell, one that wasn't there yesterday. A glass chamber with bright white lights and a strange silence around it. Inside the cage was a girl, not human, not machine, not like anything he had ever seen. She had pale silver skin, eyes like glowing blue water, and hair that moved gently like it was floating in air. She sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. 2 scientists stood outside the glass, whispering and writing notes. Jake was told not to ask questions, so he didn't. But his eyes kept going back to her. Later that night, Jake came back on his patrol route. The scientists were gone, the lights dimmed, and the alien girl still sat there. His stomach growled. And he opened his lunch bag, same old fries again. With a sigh, he looked at the girl. She looked back. This time their eyes met. Something passed between them, something strange. But soft. Jake slowly reached into his bag, took out a fry, and held it up through the small opening near the bottom of the glass. She didn't move. She only watched, blinking slowly. Then she crawled forward, silent and careful. She took the fry, sniffed it like a wild animal, and ate it. Her eyes widened, like it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. Jake smiled. He passed her another fry, and she ate again. When she finished, she didn't growl or make strange sounds. She only looked at him with soft, curious eyes. He didn't know why, but his chest felt heavy, like she had said thank you, even without words. The next day, something strange happened. Another guard, a young soldier named Ben, tried to approach the cage. He laughed and knocked on the glass, teasing the alien girl. Before he could say another word, the girl jumped forward and slammed her hand against the glass. She made a deep, growling sound that echoed through the hallway, not loud, but filled with anger. Ben fell backward in shock, his face pale. Jake rushed in, saw what was happening, and told Ben to back off. The girl's eyes followed Jake, and as he came closer, her body relaxed. She even tilted her head, waiting, like a pet waiting for its owner. Jake felt the stares of others behind him. Some whispered that the alien had imprinted on him. Others said it was dangerous, that she might attack. But she didn't. She only watched Jake, and only Jake. Later, when Jake reviewed the security footage, he noticed something strange. At 2:13 a.m., after all lights were off, the girl stood up inside her cage. She looked straight at the camera, then whispered something. The audio was too weak to pick it up clearly, but the words looked real. Her lips moved like she was saying his name. Jake leaned closer, replaying it again and again. It was no mistake. She had spoken, but only when he wasn't there. The next night, Jake walked past the cage again. This time, she was waiting. She came forward before he could even stop. She placed her hand on the glass, and without thinking, Jake did the same. Their palms matched through the glass. Warmth passed between them like a silent connection. No words, no sounds, just understanding. Jake didn't know what she was or why she was here, but deep inside, he knew something big was happening, something the military was hiding, and he was now part of it, whether he wanted to be or not. Behind him, cameras blinked red, watching every move. In a control room far away, a man in a dark uniform whispered into a phone. "He's making contact," he said. "Initiate phase 2. Jake couldn't sleep that night, even after his shift ended. Even after lying on the old metal bed in his quarters, his mind stayed awake. He kept thinking about the alien girl in the glass cage, the way she growled at the other guard, the way she calmed down when he was near, and most of all, the way She whispered something when no one was watching. It was like she knew him or needed him. But how could that be? He turned over, staring at the ceiling. Cold air from the vent whispered across his face, even though it was late and the base was silent. He felt like eyes were on him, watching, waiting. He finally sat up, threw on his jacket, and walked back. To the east wing. He wasn't supposed to be there at night without clearance. But something inside pulled him forward. Call it curiosity, or maybe guilt, or maybe just loneliness. As he entered the hallway, he saw the glass cage glowing dimly. In the dark, she was awake, sitting in the same position, knees to her chest. But her eyes were fixed on the door, like she had been waiting for him. Jake stopped just a few steps from the cage. "Hey," he whispered. "You okay?" She tilted her head slightly, then slowly stood up. Her movements were smooth, almost too smooth, like water flowing instead of a body walking. She came to the glass and placed her hand against it again. Jake stepped forward and placed his hand where hers touched. There was no sound, no words, just the same silent connection. Then something strange happened. A warm pulse moved through Jake's fingers, up his arm, into his head. It wasn't painful, but it was intense. His eyes widened as images flashed. Inside his mind, he saw burning skies, ships crashing, people running, creatures screaming. He saw a small alien girl, her hiding behind a wall, crying, alone. Jake pulled his hand back and stumbled, breathing hard. "What was that?" he said aloud. She looked at him sadly, then tapped the glass softly. He stepped closer again. And this time, the voice was not from her mouth. It was inside his head, soft and full of feeling. "You saw my memory," the voice said, only. "You," Jake gasped. "You're in my head." She nodded slowly, her eyes glowing gently in the dark. "You fed me," she said. "You gave, not took." Jake shook his head in disbelief. "How are you doing this? Are you reading my mind?" "No," she said. "Only sharing." Jake stood there, heart pounding, trying to make sense of it. He had seen strange things in the war, but nothing like this. She stepped back, turning her face away, as if tired. Jake wanted to ask more, but just then, a voice crackled from his walkie-talkie. "Unit 4 report." He jumped, pressing the button. Checking power box, minor issue." "Copy that," the voice replied. Then went silent. He looked back at the cage, but she was already sitting down again. Like nothing happened, but everything had changed. The next day, rumors were already spreading across the base. Some said the alien girl screamed all night. Others said she refused food from anyone but Jake. A few guards started calling her his pet. Jake ignored them, but deep down, he knew it was. More than that, that afternoon, during his routine patrol, a scientist named Dr. Levin stopped him. He wore round glasses, smelled like coffee, and always seemed nervous. "I saw the security tapes," Levin said in a whisper. "She reacts differently when you're around." Jake nodded slowly, unsure what to say. Levin leaned closer. "This isn't just biology," he said. "It's connection, maybe psychic. Like telepathy?" Jake asked. "Maybe," Levin replied. "Or something older, deeper." Later that evening, Jake was asked to report to Colonel Briggs's office. Briggs was a tall man with sharp eyes and a voice like gravel. He tapped his pen on the table. As Jake entered, "You've been spending a lot of time near the specimen," Briggs said. Jake stood straight. "I follow patrol routes, sir." "Don't play dumb," Briggs said coldly. "We've seen the tapes." He leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "She only responds to you, and we want to know why." Jake kept his face blank. "I don't know, sir. Maybe she feels safe around me." Briggs smiled darkly. "Or maybe she's using you." Jake didn't answer. Briggs continued. "Stay away from her. That's an order." Jake left the office feeling uneasy. Something wasn't right. Why were they so afraid of a creature who hadn't hurt anyone? Why was she locked away instead of helped? That night, he walked past the cage again. He wasn't supposed to, but he didn't care. She came to the glass the moment she saw him. This time, her voice in his head was clearer. "They fear what I know," she said. Jake frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked up at the ceiling, then whispered, "They are not saving me. They are studying me." Jake's stomach turned cold. "Why?" She paused, then spoke slowly. "They want to make more like me." His eyes widened. "More?" She nodded. "I am not the only one." Suddenly the hallway lights flickered. A loud humming filled the air, like machines turning on. Deep underground, Jake turned around, alert. "What was that?" he asked. The girl didn't answer. She just stared at the wall, as if seeing something far away. Jake looked back at her, heart pounding. "Tell me what they're doing here," he whispered. She looked at him, her glowing eyes filled with quiet sadness. "I don't know everything," she said. "But I know this, your people are building something." Jake stepped closer. "What are they building?" She blinked slowly. "Me." Jake didn't remember falling asleep. One moment he was sitting in his bunk, staring at the wall, and the next he was dreaming, or maybe not. In his mind, he stood in a field of blue grass, the sky above him swirling with stars that moved like waves. The air smelled like metal and flowers at the same time. Everything felt unreal, yet peaceful. And then he saw her. The alien girl, standing across the field, her silver hair floating around her like smoke. She didn't speak, but he could feel her words, like warm wind brushing across his thoughts. "You are here," she said, without using her mouth. Jake nodded, confused. "Where is this?" "My memory," she said. "And now yours too." Jake looked around again, trying to understand. He felt the grass under his boots, soft and cool. He saw giant trees in the distance, and creatures flying in the sky like glowing ribbons. "This is your home?" he asked. She nodded. "Was," she said, "before the burning." Suddenly, the sky turned red. Fire rained down, explosions in the sky, ships screaming through the clouds. Jake saw alien children running, crying, being pulled into cages. Saw men in black armor, some human, some not, chasing them. Then it all vanished, and Jake opened his eyes with a gasp. His heart was racing, his body covered in sweat, but he was back in his bunk, alone, or so he thought. Then he heard her voice again, not from outside, but inside his head. "You saw what I see." Jake sat up, breathing hard. He had no idea how, but she had brought him into her memory. Not just a dream, something deeper, something real. All day, Jake couldn't focus. During his shift, the world felt strange, like he was half here, half somewhere else. Every time he walked past her cage, her eyes followed him, not with fear, not with anger, but with understanding. They were connected now, and he knew it. "Dear." Levin pulled him aside that evening. Scientist looked nervous, holding a tablet in his shaking hands. "I've been studying the security footage," Levin said. "There's a pattern." Jake raised an eyebrow. "What kind of pattern?" "Her behavior changes only when you're near," Levin explained. "Not just emotionally, her heart rate, her brain waves, everything." Jake didn't say anything. "She's forming a bond with you. Not like an animal, not like a prison or something else," Levin said, voice dropping. "Like a link." Jake nodded slowly. "A mind link." Levin leaned in closer, whispering, "I think she's trying to show you something." That night, Jake returned to the East Wing again. He stood outside her cage, the cold lights buzzing above. She was already there, waiting, her eyes glowing like stars trapped in water. He didn't speak, and neither did she. He simply placed his hand on the glass. She placed hers on the other side. The moment they touched, the world vanished again. This time, Jake saw a laboratory filled with glass tanks, wires, and machines that hummed with dark energy. Inside the tanks were other beings like her, young, old, weak, some missing limbs, others missing eyes. Some were floating still, unmoving. Others were screaming without sound. Jake turned, horrified, and saw a figure in the shadows. It was Colonel Briggs standing in front of a control panel. Speaking to a screen. The subject is stable, Briggs said. The bonding process with the human is working. We can move to the next phase. Jake felt sick. He tried to turn away, but he couldn't move. She wanted him to see everything. The memory shifted again. Now he saw her as a little girl, alone in a glass room. Being poked, tested, studied. She had cried silently for days. Until one day, the screen showed a list, compatible human detected. It read, with Jake's picture below. Then it all faded, and Jake was back in the hallway, hands still on the glass. His chest burned with shock and anger. They had planned. This, you were chosen, she said inside his mind. They made you my match. Jake stepped back, trying to breathe. His hands were shaking, all this time. I thought I was helping you, he whispered. But I was part of the test. She looked down, then back up at him. But you changed it, she said. You chose kindness. He looked at her, heart heavy. What do they want from you? She stared at him, then replied, my mind, my body, my power. Jake remembered the file he had seen. Human Weaponization Project. XARA, her name. He realized was not just a label, it was a code. She wasn't just a prisoner, she was a blueprint. Jake clenched his fists. He couldn't let this continue. He had to do something. What do I do? He asked her. Free me, she said. But not just me, she added. There are others. Jake looked around the hallway. Cameras blinked silently. Behind the walls were secrets, doors locked with codes, rooms filled with forgotten voices. He turned back to her. I'll come back tomorrow night, he said. We'll find a way out. She nodded slowly. Their minds touched one last time before he walked away. As he turned the corner, a voice crackled from a hidden speaker. He's ready, said Briggs, watching through a hidden monitor. Phase 3 begins tomorrow. Jake waited until the clocks passed midnight. The base was quiet now. The hall's dark, and the lights dimmed to save power. He moved like a shadow, dressed in black, with a small flashlight tucked into his belt. He had memorized the security camera blind spots. He knew when the guards changed shifts, when the scientists went to sleep. He had been planning this for days, ever since he saw those memories in Zara's mind. She had told him, there are others, and now he had to find them. He reached a locked door near the lower levels. Not many people came down here. It was marked as Storage Zone B. But Jake had never seen anything stored inside. He pulled out a stolen keycard, swiped it, and waited. The light turned green. The door hissed open, and a wave of cold air touched his skin. The hallway beyond looked different, older, darker, and strangely quiet. Dust floated in the beam of his flashlight as he walked deeper. He passed old crates, broken machines, and forgotten tools. But then he saw it, another door, with a keypad and a retina scanner. This wasn't storage. This was something else, something hidden. Jake knew his clearance wouldn't open this one. But then he remembered Zara had shown him numbers in a dream. 5 digits, glowing softly in her memory. He typed them in slowly. 37186. The keypad blinked, then turned green. The door slid open. Inside was a large lab, cold and bright. Rows of glass tanks lined the walls. Inside the tanks were beings not dead, but not alive either. They floated in blue liquid. Eyes closed, wires in their arms, tubes in their necks. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Some of them looked like Zara, others looked older, and some barely looked human at all. This wasn't just an alien lab. This was a factory. He moved closer to one of the tanks. A young alien child floated inside, no older than 10. Jake placed a hand on the glass, and for a second, the child opened his eyes. They were glowing, just like Zara's, but filled with pain. Jake backed away, heart pounding. He turned to the nearby desk, searching for answers. He found a tablet filled with notes. Project code. Hybrid Mind Link Series goal. Enhanced telepathy and emotional tracking through controlled bonding with human hosts. Status. Subject XARA shows the highest response. Recommendation. Test next phase with soldier Jake Walker. Jake stared at the words. They weren't just watching him, they were using him. His bond with Zara wasn't a miracle, it was a setup. A plan. He scrolled further and saw video logs. One showed Zara as a child, crying in a small glass room. Another showed scientists forcing food into her mouth, attaching cold wires to her head. She fought, screamed silently, but no one stopped. Jake slammed the tablet onto the table. His hands shook with anger. They had broken her, shaped her, and then handed her to him like a test subject. But she had fought back. She had bonded with him by choice, not control. He turned to leave. But a soft sound caught his attention, a whisper, soft and weak. He followed it to the far wall, where a small cage sat in the shadows. Inside was another alien, older, thinner, with pale skin and sunken eyes. The creature looked up at Jake and spoke, not with a voice, but directly into his mind. "You are the human," it said, "the one she trusts." Jake stepped closer. "Who are you?" "I was like her," the being replied. "Before the pain." Jake knelt beside the cage, his heart breaking. "Why are they doing this?" he asked. The being blinked slowly. "They fear what we know," it said. "They fear the stars." Before Jake could ask more, alarms blared through the facility, red lights flashed, and a voice shouted from the speakers. "Unauthorized access detected in Sector B." Jake turned and ran, heart racing. As he reached the hallway, the ground shook and the power flickered. Something wasn't right. He reached Zara's chamber just as the emergency lights came on. She was already at the glass, eyes glowing with panic. "They know," she said. In his head, "They saw," Jake nodded. "I saw them too. I'm not leaving you here." He added, "Then we run," she said. "Now." Jake reached for the panel beside her chamber. He typed the same code, 37186. The locks released, and the door hissed open for the first time. Zara stepped out, bare feet touching the cold floor. She looked different now, taller, stronger, glowing softly with power. "Are you ready?" Jake asked. She didn't answer. She just reached for his hand, behind them. Soldiers rushed down the hallway. Colonel Briggs barked orders through the intercom. "Seal all exits," he shouted. "Contain the specimen and the soldier." Jake looked at Zara. "We're not specimens," he said. She smiled gently. "No," she said. "We're survivors." They ran side by side, deeper into the base. But Jake knew this was only the beginning. There were more secrets, more lies. And somewhere beyond these walls, the real enemy was still waiting. Asterisk, the facility was no longer quiet. Sirens screamed through the steel corridors. Red lights flashed like warning eyes. Soldiers shouted into radios, and boots slammed against the ground like thunder. Jake pulled Zara through the emergency stairwell. Alarms echoed behind them. "She's loose." Someone yelled from above. "They've breached Containment Zone Alpha." Another voice answered. Zara gripped Jake's hand tightly. Her glowing eyes flicked around every corner. Her body alert like a hunted animal. They weren't just running from guards anymore. They were running from something bigger. Jake paused at the landing, catching his breath. "We can't keep running like this," he said. "There's an exit near the north wall," Zara replied inside his head. "But we won't be alone." Jake looked at her. "What do you mean?" "They released it," she said, her voice trembling. "They let it out to stop us." Before Jake could ask more, the ground beneath them shook. It was subtle at first, like a hum in his boots. Then it turned into a violent tremor, far below. Something had awakened, something angry. Suddenly, the stairwell door burst open, and 3 guards stormed in. "Get down!" One of them shouted, raising his rifle. Jake stepped in front of Zara, arms wide. "Don't shoot," he said. "She's not the enemy. She's a freak," the guard yelled back. "She's one of them." Before he could fire, the lights above exploded. A wave of invisible force smashed into the guards, sending them flying into the walls. Their guns clattered to the floor, their bodies unconscious. Jake turned around in shock. Zara stood there, eyes glowing bright blue, breath heavy. "I didn't mean to," she said softly. They tried to hurt you. Jake stepped closer. It's okay. But deep down, he realized something frightening. Her powers were growing faster than anyone expected. They reached the lower halls, where the temperature dropped. Frost clung to the walls like spiderwebs. The air smelled metallic and cold. There were no more guards here, only silence and shadows. Then they heard it. A sound like metal grinding against bone, deep and distant, followed by a low, growling roar. Jake froze. What is that? Zara's voice shook as she answered. It was made in the dark, she said. Built from our pain. It is not like me, she added. It is worse. They pressed on past locked doors and broken signs. Jake saw claw marks along the walls, long and deep, and the floor was slick with something dark. They turned a corner and found a ruined lab. Glass shattered across the ground. Chairs overturned, blood smeared on the floor. In the center of the room was a broken tank, huge and completely empty. Subject 0. Zara whispered, her voice small. The first of us. Jake walked slowly toward the shattered tank. It looked like something had broken out, not in. Why did they make it? He asked. They wanted a weapon, she replied. But they lost control. Suddenly, a distant scream echoed through the halls. Not human, not alien, just pain, raw and endless. Jake stepped back. We need to move. They ran toward the final corridor where an emergency hangar exit waited. Zara's memory had shown him the way. But as they neared the heavy steel doors, the facility shuddered again. A voice burst through the intercom, cold and commanding. This is Colonel Briggs. It said, containment has failed. All personnel evacuate immediately. Jake stopped in his tracks. They're leaving, he said. They're abandoning the place. No, Zara said. They're locking it down and burying the truth. Just then, the steel doors ahead began to close slowly. Jake sprinted forward, pulling Zara with him. They slipped through just in time, tumbling into a dim hangar filled with old aircrafts and cargo crates. But something followed. A massive shadow stepped through the doorway behind them. It was tall, hunched, and covered in pale, cracked skin. Its face was twisted, stitched, and filled with glowing wires, eyes burning red, chest rising and falling like a machine breathing fire. Zara gasped, her whole body tensing. It remembers, she said. It remembers the pain. The creature stepped forward, dragging its claws across the metal floor. It didn't look at Jake, it looked only at Zara. Jake raised a crowbar from the floor. Hands shaking. Go, he told her. I'll stop it. No, she said firmly. We do it together, the creature roared. And the sound shook the hangar walls. Lights flickered, alarms screamed again. And then Zara's body lit up, glowing from inside. She stepped forward, her hands raised, her voice ringing in Jake's mind like thunder. I am not your weapon, she said. I am not your test. The creature charged, but Jake and Zara stood their ground. Their bond pulsed like fire mines. Locked together, hearts beating as one. As the creature lunged forward, time slowed. Jake saw flashes of her memories again, her people. Her home, her pain. He poured his own memories back, his battles, his losses, his hope. Their minds merged like rivers crashing together. The impact exploded in light, blinding and loud, then silence. When the dust cleared, the creature lay still, broken and silent. Jake dropped to his knees, breathing hard. Zara knelt beside him, eyes dim. He looked at her. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. But more are coming, she said. Jake stood, shaking. Then we keep moving. Behind them, the facility burned. Ahead of them, the open night waited. But they were no longer just running. They were fighting back. Asterisk rain poured down like the sky was angry. Dark clouds covered the stars, and lightning flashed across the world like cracks in glass. Jake and Zara stood on the edge of an abandoned highway, breathing hard, soaked in water and blood. Behind them, the military facility burned like a secret finally revealed. We're not safe, Jake said, his voice low. Zara looked up at the stormy sky, her silver hair sticking to her face. "They know," she said. "They're coming." "What do?" "You mean?" Jake asked. "Not your people," she whispered. "The others." He turned to her slowly. "The ones from your memories?" She nodded. "They followed me here, suddenly." A sound broke through the storm, a deep hum in the sky, unnatural and cold. Jake looked up and saw it. A ship, massive and silent, shaped like a blade cutting through the clouds. Then another, and another. They floated above the earth like giants watching ants. "It's them," Zara said. "They think I'm still theirs." Jake clenched his fists. "Let them try." Down the road, a convoy of military trucks came to a halt. Colonel Briggs stepped out of the lead vehicle, his face wet, not from rain, but sweat. Behind him were dozens of soldiers, weapons ready, eyes sharp. Jake stepped forward, standing between them and Zara. "She's not your enemy," he shouted. "She's not the problem." Briggs didn't answer. He simply looked up at the sky, where the alien ships hovered like vultures. "She led them here," Briggs said coldly. "She's the signal." "No," Zara said, stepping beside Jake. "They were coming anyway. I just remembered first." A sudden blast of thunder rolled across the sky, except it wasn't thunder. It was a weapon, a beam of light fired from one of the ships, slicing through a nearby mountain like it was paper. The soldiers panicked, shouting orders, scattering like insects. Briggs screamed into his radio, "Engage all defense." "Systems," Jake turned to Zara. "What do we do?" She looked him in the eyes, and her voice echoed in his mind. "We fight." Her body lifted from the ground, glowing like lightning. The rain didn't touch her now. It steamed off her skin like she was burning from the inside. She raised her hands, and for the first time, Jake felt it, her power unchained. She screamed not with her mouth, but with her soul, and the air bent, rippled, and cracked. A wave of energy blasted from her chest, hitting the ships like a shockwave. One ship spun out of control, crashing into the sea far in the distance. Another drifted away, smoke pouring from its side. But they didn't stop. More ships appeared in the clouds, even bigger, even darker, and this time they dropped something, not bombs, soldiers, alien warriors. Tall and armored in black scales, fell from the sky like burning stars. They landed hard, ripping into the ground, their eyes glowing red, weapons forming from their arms. Jake grabbed a fallen rifle and took cover. "Here we go," he muttered. Zara stood in the open, her arms raised, energy flowing around her like a living storm. The battle began. Gunfire, explosions, alien screams, the smell of ash and metal. Jake fired, ducked, rolled, and shouted to the soldiers. "Protect her," he yelled. "She's the reason we're still alive." Some listened, others ran. Briggs didn't move. He stared at Zara like he had seen a god or a monster. Zara moved like wind and fire, throwing waves of force, light, and heat. But every time she attacked, her glow dimmed slightly. She was powerful, yes, but not endless. Jake reached her side during a pause in the fight. "You can't keep going like this," he said. "I have to," she replied. "They're not just here for me." Jake looked around. Cities were being attacked, towers burning in the distance, fighter jets flying in chaos. It wasn't just one attack. It was a war. Then, through the smoke, Jake saw something terrifying. A new alien stepped forward from the enemy lines, taller than the rest, wearing a crown of bone and eyes like black. "Sons, that's him," Zara whispered. "The one who broke our world." Jake raised his gun, but she held his hand. "This fight isn't yours," she said. "Yes, it is," he replied. "You're not alone anymore." The crowned alien raised his hand, and the earth cracked. Energy surged toward Zara. Slamming into her like a wall, she fell to her knees, coughing, her skin flickering like fading light. Jake ran to her, catching her in his arms. "No," he whispered. "Stay with me." She looked at him weakly. "I'm sorry," she said. "They used me. But I never wanted this." Jake felt his anger boil. He stood, his hands shaking, and turned to face the alien king. "You want her?" he shouted. "You'll have to go through me." The alien raised a weapon, but before it fired, something changed. Zara's body glowed again, but now the light came from Jake's hands. Their bond, stronger than ever, surged through him, his mind filled with her memories, her power, her fear, her love. He raised both hands, and energy blasted out of him like a star exploding. The alien king flew back, roaring, his crown shattering everything. Stopped. The alien ships froze. The warriors halted. The sky turned quiet. Zara stood, her glow returning. "You did it," she said. "No," Jake replied. "We did." The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke drifted across the broken ground like forgotten dreams. Alien ships floated above in silence, no longer attacking. Their weapons powered down, their red lights dimmed. Jake stood in the center of the field, breathing hard, clothes torn, face bruised. Beside him, Zara swayed on her feet, her glow flickering like a dying flame. They had won, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. The alien warriors began to retreat. One by one, they vanished into beams of blue light, drawn back to the ships above. The crowned leader lay unconscious in the crater behind them, stripped of power, stripped of pride. A human soldier ran up to Jake, lowering his weapon. "Sir," he said, "orders?" Jake looked at him, then at the ships. "Let them go," he said. "They came for a weapon, but they found something stronger." The soldier hesitated, then nodded and stepped back. Jake turned to Zara. She was quiet, staring at the sky with tired eyes. "You're hurt," he said gently. She gave a small smile. "You're glowing," she said back. Jake chuckled softly, even through the pain. "Guess I picked it up from you." Zara looked around slowly, at the soldiers watching her, the ships above, the earth below. Her voice reached his mind one last time, soft and full of peace. "Thought I came here to survive," she said, "but I came here to change." Then she collapsed. Jake caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was cold, but her light was still there. Just faint. He held her close, his voice shaking. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You're not done yet." A figure stepped forward from the shadows. Dr. Levin, his coat torn, eyes wide. "I know a place," he said. "A ship, a beacon. They left it underground years ago." Jake nodded without hesitation. "Show me." Together, they raced through the remains of the battlefield, down into the old tunnels, past broken lights, shattered doors, and signs that once read "restricted." At the end of the tunnel was a chamber, made of silver stone, glowing with energy. In the center sat a small, egg-shaped ship, humming softly, the last hope of a lost race. Jake placed Zara inside, her body surrounded by light. Symbols lit up across the ship's surface, responding to her presence. A soft voice filled the chamber, hers, recorded long ago. "Return me to the stars," it said. The ship closed, sealed, and lifted into the air. Jake stepped back, his heart heavy. He didn't want her to go, not after everything they'd shared. Will she come back? "Dr. Levin asked quietly. Jake stared at the ship as it rose through a shaft toward the open sky. "I don't know," he said. "But she has a home again." The ship vanished into the clouds, leaving only silence. Weeks passed. The world healed slowly. Governments denied the attack. Media called it a failed experiment. But Jake knew the truth. He returned to the same place where he first met her. The cold military base now empty, the glass cage long removed. He sat on the floor, opened a small lunchbox, and pulled out box of fries. He placed one gently on the ground, just in case. The wind blew through the open door, quiet and warm. Jake smiled and whispered, "I shared my fries with her. And now," he paused, looking at the stars above, "she shares her galaxy with me."